The Queen is dead. Anyway, Magic the Gathering, anyone? This video is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc. Use the code KENOBI at checkout to get 5% off your order on sealed product and singles and help support the channel here on YouTube. The Monarch is one of my favourite mechanics in Magic the Gathering of all time, although I'm anti-monarchist outside of Magic the Gathering. Originally introduced in Conspiracy Take the Crown, the second draftable Conspiracy set, where you draft decks and then play multiplayer matches with said decks, a precursor to the Commander drafts we saw in Commander Legends and Battle for Baldur's Gate. Thematically, the Conspiracy sets are concerned with the happenings on the plane of Fiora, a political subterfuge and power struggles are the focus, with the regicide of King Brago being a central plot point of the second set, and the rush to fill the void left behind by the death of the king. To hit these thematic notes, the set was multiplayer, so that discussion and politicking and making deals with each other was a key part of the game. There was no pretense or pretending that spike plays and king making wasn't part of multiplayer Magic, both thematically and literally in the sense of the Monarch mechanic. I absolutely loved both Conspiracy sets, but I'm a softie for weird draft sets that introduce new ways to play. The biggest part of this political angle of the Conspiracy multiplayer format was the innovations in Conspiracy 2 with the mechanic Monarch. Now, Monarch, contrary to its name, actually does something in service of the game. It pushes the game forward towards an inevitable end, encouraging and incentivizing people to get aggressive and attack through, confusing board states. Certain cards and spells make you the Monarch, and when you're the Monarch, you draw an extra card at the end of your turn, to give the act of becoming a Monarch and keeping the crown a value that you really want to seek. The Monarch reminder I always thought was an emblem for some reason in my mind, and then when I started writing up some notes for this and checking myself, it's not an emblem. Instead, it's a token that is a reminder. It functions much like an emblem, tech that was found on Planeswalkers, half a decade before Conspiracy even arrived, but it's not an emblem mechanically. It simply exists outside of the game as a reminder, similar to the initiative in recent sets and the dungeons we recently explored. A fun little tidbit is there's actually a typo on the original Monarch token. Can you see it? Can you look at this and your mind not fill in the blank and see where the mistake is? Beyond all of this and the drawing the cards, there are certain cards, normally the ones that actually facilitated the Monarch mechanic, that were better when you were the Monarch. They either had static effects or triggered abilities. Entourage of Tress is a better blocker when it's serving the king, queen, or whatever title you choose to adopt upon royal appointment. Meanwhile, Custodial Lich triggers when you become the Monarch, causing a player to have to sacrifice a creature. These triggers get more interesting when you consider the fact that the monarchy can be lost and regained. This is the best part of the mechanic in general because it incentivizes everyone to get aggressive and get the game moving towards an end. If you attack someone and deal combat damage to them with a creature, you take the crown, you become the Monarch. It's fun, it's powerful, it's thematic, it draws you cards, it enables and powers up the cards that introduce the Monarch. Honestly, I think the Monarch mechanic might be one of the best multiplayer mechanics we've ever seen. So you might lose the monarchy with Custodial Lich in play, but then you get it back later, you'll trigger it again. The Liches are rare, so the effect is obviously very, very good, but in multiplayer, it wasn't even backbreaking there as well. 4-player Magic has a way of balancing these powerful effects. And there were some other notable cards. I'm talking about Custodial Lich a lot, but it's not really that notable. There are other notable cards in Conspiracy 2. We had the literal Queen Marquesa, who was the canonical usurper taking the throne from the now dead Brago. But unlike the real successor here in Britain, there is no evidence or suggestion that her brother is a sex pest. Thorn of the Black Rose saw a considerable amount of play in Pauper, whilst Palace Jailer became a legacy staple in Death and Taxes. The Monarch mechanic becomes even more powerful in 1v1 if you can become the Monarch and stop your opponent from hitting you, if you can remove all their creatures or have blockers to defend it, because now you have a one-sided Howling Mine. You're drawing an extra card every turn. You're drawing double the cards of your opponent. This makes the mechanic very powerful in 1v1 if the cards that enable it are good enough to see play anyway. Palace Jailer, for example, allowed you to remove an enemy creature. Sometimes you would flicker it or vial it in or play it to get rid of a Marit Lage or a singular Delver, although over time that became worse as Delver played more and more threat-rich decks. When Jailer was first spoiled, the people on Reddit said to people like myself that we were dumb and stupid for considering that this card might be playable. A 4-mana creature that you can then O-ring things with, that's searchable off of Recruit of the Guard and gives you a one-sided Howling Mine, must be bad. Then somebody top 8 at an SCG Legacy event, I think it was. I think it might have been Craig Wesco, but don't quote me on that. And suddenly everyone was like, oh yeah, of course, it's a staple. It's really good. I knew that. Weirdly, is rarely played in modern Legacy metagames now. The deck got access to more powerful removal options like Scareclad Apparition and Solitude over the last few years, and Palace Jail is better in a low pressure matchups or decks that have minimal creatures in order to keep the Monarch. I was never a fan of it against Delver, especially when they played more threats that can get over you in the air, Murktide being a problem now. Because if you look to race your opponent, they're going to gain the Monarchy, and you can't really beat the blue pile decks if they're drawing more cards than you. Losing the Monarchy would often lose you the game, so Palace Jail has fallen to the wayside in Legacy now. Both of these cards were really late to appear on Magic the Gathering Online because supplemental draftable sets like this, other than perhaps Commander Legends, never really show up on Modo. We never had Conspiracy 1, 2, or the latest Legends, Legends 2, Baldur's Gate. We only got the middle Legends, the first Legends. Anyway, the multiplayer formats that you draft don't show up on Modo, so these things had to be added to treasure chests. At one point, the Black Rose card was like $15 for a common that saw playing Pauper, and was one of the most expensive cards in the format alongside the Gorilla Shaman as well. Later on, they added it as a player reward, which crashed the price, but it still sits around $6 now, in spite of a reprint into Commander Legend. I made videos at the time asking them, begging them to add Palace Jail to treasure chests, which is not the best way to add cards to the format, if we're honest, because I wanted to play my paper deck online, and for a while, Legacy didn't look like it did in paper. That also happened recently with another supplementary set in Minsc and Boo, and a few other initiative cards, where then they're playable in Legacy now, but they it took a while to show up on Modo. Less of a time than before. I think Palace Jail took like the best part of a year. Minsc and Boo only took like a month to show up, or less than that. So they have got better over time. Did you know that Queen Elizabeth was alive prior to the giving back of any of the colonies the British took by force on the African continent? If modern retellings of her life are to be believed, she remained impartial and not involved in politics during her reign as a queen. As the British brutally suppressed independence movements across the now former colonies, she didn't get involved. That's really cool and good. Monarch returned in Commander Legends, a perfect fit for the multiplayer aim set. The court cycle were solid pickups for Commander decks, and they printed our first Wrath, which gave the Monarch. But it was clever enough that it didn't kill all things like unconditionally, so larger creatures would stick around to vie for the throne and pressure the person who became the Monarch off the back of the Wrath. The most impactful of the Monarch cards, of course, was a blue one in Pauper. Fall from Favor, an imprisoning enchantment in blue that makes you the Monarch as ATBs, was abused in Pauper by the Flicker decks in order to maintain the monarchy and gain huge advantage. So much so that it got banned in the format, and it now holds the accolade of the only Monarch mechanic card to currently sit on a ban list anywhere. What I love about the Monarch mechanic in Magic the Gathering is that it's not wasting taxpayers' monies to hide paedophiles from justice. Nor is it raising concerns over the darkness of the skin colour of their latest addition to the family. They don't prop up corrupt governments, offer no discernible benefit to the public, and lord around in stolen jewels of nations we pillaged as a colonial oppressor. Instead, it's a powerful mechanic that pushes people towards action. It pushes people to get involved with game actions that will end the game. It's a way to show up this idea that you're not just building up a board state and not attacking people. It pressurizes you to. It incentivizes you to. It also thematically nails court politics to the extent that if we ever get a draftable or commander pre-con Game of Thrones Universes Beyond product, it's so evidently the best fit for it. It also looks to show us how arbitrary monarchies and divine right and blood rights really are, whereby the simple virtue of saying you are or being born into it, you are, and you now have more resources than anyone else. You have millions to spend on refurbishing your palaces while people are struggling to pay their energy bills, whilst people are dying due to fuel poverty in your country. It's so strong and on theme, and I never thought I'd say these words out loud, but I love the Monarch in Magic the Gathering. Fuck Prince Charles though. Thanks for watching, smash that like button. I hope you enjoyed this little history lesson about the monarchy within Magic the Gathering on a day where it seemed apt. I'm sorry if you are mourning for the loss of Queen Elizabeth. I never want anyone to feel sadness or pain if I can help it, but you gotta remember, she wasn't just the nan of the country. She was a symbol of colonial oppression, and it's a world of bollocks really, isn't it? Thanks for watching. See you all soon. Ta-ta for now.